Welcome to Bitchin Moanin. We are so glad you guys are with us today on our third full episode.
One. We're so excited.
We hope you guys are enjoying the episodes previously. We're getting a lot of great feedback and a lot of suggestions. Keep them coming. And we are going to talk a little bit today about something that's pretty important to us. We're going a little deeper today. I've been getting the feedback of, say it with your chest out. So we're going to say it with our chest out today and fill you guys in on a little bit about our relationships in our past and how it affects our topic today.
Yes.
But before we do that, we're going to talk about our wine. What you got over there?
I have a Barefoot wine.
Barefoot, I love it.
And it is strawberry, and it is a Fruscato.
Fruscato.
And that makes it better. Fruscato, when you say it like that. Because, like I mentioned before, I like Riscato and Moscato. So anything fruity like that is great. So, so that's what I have today.
Barefoot is so good. I love it. And I love the big bottles that they have so you can share.
Exactly. And then if you're happen to be watching a podcast maybe or some other your favorite reality show or maybe investigation discovery murder mysteries or whatever, it's like you can have that bottle because it's big. It's like you don't ever have to get off the couch. You just pour it in your glass and you're good to go for the night. So
I have Messina Hoff. Shocker.
Really?
I do. I'm usually a red wine girl, red bold. I like Bordeaux. I like cabs. But today, since we were having such a heavy topic, I thought I'd go a little lighter. This is called Angel Riesling.
Oh, so good. You told me about that one and tried it. Oh, so good.
It's Angel Late Harvest, and it is so good. It's light and fruity, and, again, it's like a dessert wine. So for any of you wine connoisseurs out there, we've given you a couple of different things to think about. If you don't drink wine and maybe a matcha or a cafe or anything like that, or tea, because we're going to be spilling some tea today about our life.
A bit.
Our reality that we went through, and we're going to tell you about that. So what are we bitching about today?
So we gave you a little teaser to kind of give you an idea what the topic's going to be. So we posted a picture of 3 celebrities, and the question was, what do they have in common?
Did you guess it?
So what they have in common is they've been married multiple times. So that's what our topic's going to get into. So, so that's why we post that. Just give you a little bit of teaser of what we were going to talk about today.
Yes, so we both have been married multiple times, and some good, some not so good, and we're going to talk about that. And so what is your bitching about the multiple marriages?
With the multiple marriages, yeah. So I'm going to get my chest out for this one, and I'll probably get a little angry throughout this one. But I hate the fact that society as a whole has a judgment on people who have been married multiple times.
Yeah.
Because after being married multiple times, I've been married 3 times. I'm on my 4th marriage now. It's one of those where people look at you funny if they ask you about marriages.
How many times?
Yeah, how many times you've been married, and you see the wheels turning. Like they're not thinking, well, I bet you there's some kind of reason why. It's like more like, ooh, what did you do? Or, why did you get divorced? So it's always kind of put back on the person of why they got divorced. And it's like, there's a lot that goes into that. Yes. And it's like, I shouldn't care about that at all, right? I'm 57 years old. I shouldn't care, but I still care. But I also feel like I have to defend my decisions. So, and I guess that's what irritates me. It's kind of triggering is because I shouldn't have to do that, right? My experiences are my experiences. I stand by them. But I just wish society as a whole would have a little more grace and be a little more, inquisitive into why people make those decisions. Because they aren't made lightly, and people just don't get married to go, oh, if it doesn't work, it's, out of convenience. I just don't like you today, and so I'm going to divorce you.
Exactly.
It's not that at all. So there's just a lot behind it. It's pretty triggering for me.
Yeah.
But, I used to not think that way, but now I'm like, okay, maybe I need to check myself since I've been through that experience,
Yeah. I'm a little different. I don't really care what people think. I was married 3 times. This is my 3rd marriage. We have a little bit of different circumstances. We are going to talk about all that, but I just, I think it was from our upbringing, which we're going to talk about too, but I didn't really care. It's like it was my life, and, people are going to say what they're going to say, and they think they know everything, and they don't. They don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
Exactly.
And what you go through, what your reality is, what your perspective is from that marriage. And, nobody goes in saying, oh, I'm, going to break up in a year. No, you go in, and this is my person. Right. I'm going to be with them forever, through thick and thin, whatever, better for worse, whatever. And I was married, my first husband, my kid's dad, I was married to him almost 17 years, Right. And I went in there thinking that was my person, we were going to be together forever. It didn't work out that way. He's my kid's dad. I will love him forever for that, and respect him for that, but do I like him? Probably not. Not really. He probably doesn't like me either, but that's okay. But anyways, yeah. So how long were you married?
The girl's dad.
Yeah, the girl's dad.
My girl's dad. We were married almost 14 years, so married a long time.
And how old were you?
I was 19 when I got married. So today, that's oh my God, that's just young. I can't even imagine, right, for my kids to get married. But you were a little bit older than I.
I was 24, 25. So, and we have kids that are married now, and some say, oh, I want to get married, and some say I don't ever want to get married. But we have about three kids, kids too, that are married, and they're all different ages, and we respect what they have done and what they want to do with their person. And they were lucky to find the people that they're with, because that is their person right now, And if anything, God forbid, does go wrong, we will be there for them,
right.
But it's also on how we were raised, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was raised in an evangelical church, and my impression, again, there's a lot of things you're taught when you're little, raised at the church, and you just kind of go along with everything, is basically you got married, it was for life, right? And it was regardless of what was happening there, you stayed married,
right?
And so it was, my parents have been married 60 years. I have siblings that have been married decades. So, it was just what you did. You got married young and you stayed married. But so when I got to the point of my considering divorcing my girl's dad, I was okay, I wrestled with the fact, because in that church, it was basically, if you got divorced, it was a one-way ticket to hell in the HOV line with no exit ramp, right? You were just on your way, and there was no grace, no forgiveness, That's just what it was. So it was really hard thinking about that and wrestling with the decision, because the religious background that I had, I shouldn't have got divorced. I should have just suffered through whatever happened to me and just stayed there forever. And so that was hard. I had to wrestle with that.
Yeah, mine was a little different. I was raised Catholic. I'm Hispanic. I'm Colombian. So, that is a big no-no in that world too. And my mom and dad were actually divorced when I was 3. I had different relationship with my dad than my sisters did, so he wasn't really around for me. But she was this strong, independent woman, and she was raising girls that were strong, and you don't need a man to do anything for you. And so that's kind of what I learned, and sometimes that worked for me, sometimes that didn't. I mean, I remember my mom saying, just let him do it. Just let him do it. And it was do you remember who you raised, But I've learned, to kind of let them take the reins sometime.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I could do it myself. And, in the back of your mind, you're kind of like that little girl going, oh, I want the white little picket fence.
Cinderella.
And, Cinderella, all that, But the reality of it was I could just do it myself. So when I did find my person at the time, I was just this is it. I saw what my mom and dad went through, and I didn't want to go through that. And I didn't want to put my children through that at any time, because it was definitely hard.
Yeah. So I think another part too about that is you were raised strong and independent. I was in the generation that a wife was submissive, right?
Yeah.
So that was another thing about not, whether or not to get out. I'm supposed to be the little submissive wife and just take anything that was given to me. So, yeah.
So, did we talk about your bitching? Yes.
Okay.
So what? I think you want to talk about your marriages that got you to be pretty upset about things.
Oh yeah. So here we go. So I'm going to talk about my third marriage. So I met him, and I think it was in 2014. I was coming out of a long distance relationship, and that was not a long distance relationship, a long term relationship. Sorry, we lived in the same town. So, long term relationship, and it was, I didn't know, I was suffering through like depression because my dad had died as well, and I was trying to figure out why that ended. So, I was going to do some self reflection, in the summer of 2014. So I'm kind of working on that. I realized why things didn't work out. It had a lot to do with my dad. And so I start working out, getting the revenge bod for myself. I was looking all good. I had a great summer, which is a whole nother story. But yeah, I had a great summer. And then as the summer ended up going, I guess it was around Labor Day. I ended up going to a birthday party. And when I got to the birthday party, all of a sudden it was like somebody was showing me this picture of this guy, and it's like, do you think he's cute? Would you want to date him? I was like, yeah, I'll do this. So we ended up, meeting up, and then, things went really, really fast. The short version of this is we started dating. By Christmas of 2014, we were engaged, and then we were married in June of 2015.
Right.
So I had rose-colored glasses on because I was missing emotional things.
Right.
We call it love bombing now, but back then it really wasn't a term.
I never heard that before until like recently, over the last few years.
I felt like I was getting all this attention, and it was, I was craving that, right? Because I'd been missing something before, so I fell for that hook, line, and sinker like a fish, right?
Yep.
So that was, it was very, very quick, happened really fast, but I know when I came to tell you about that, you definitely had some opinions. So I'm going to let you speak to that piece of, how quickly that went for me.
I did. And this is, again, a tribute to our friendship, how we can just really be honest with each other and tell each other how we really feel about things. And I remember she came to me, and she had a wine glass, and it was a beautiful wine glass, but it
was
had
really pretty.
Will you be my bridesmaid or something to that effect? And I don't know. I knew it was coming. When she told me she got engaged, I was very happy for her, but it had been so quick. Yeah. So quick. It was like, 3 months or something like that. It was so fast.
It was way
too fast. And so when she asked me to be in her wedding, I was like, oh my gosh. And I honestly didn't say yes right away. We sat down and we talked about it, and I saw was I think that you just wanted to be in love. And you wanted to be loved.
Yeah, I was in love with the idea of being in love.
Yes,
right?
And the whole wedding and the whole thing.
Yes.
And I saw that, and I'm just like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure it's so soon?
Yes,
and, a lot of times people won't say anything. They're just like, oh my God, they'll just talk behind your back and stuff.
Yeah,
but like, no, we're not like that. Yeah, we tell each other stuff. And so I'm like, I just think it's really quick. Right. And we talked it through, and she gave me, all the reasons she wanted to. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to support you. And, we do that. Like,
right.
Our kids are married. Some of our kids are married, and stepkids are married. And, we respect what they've chosen to do. Do we agree with all of it? Sometimes maybe not. But we respect their decisions, and we will be there for them to get married, and we'll be there for them. God forbid anything does happen. And that's how I felt with her. I just said, you know what? Okay, I will do that. I will be there for you. I will stand there. And we had, she had another friend that was kind of, she had introduced me to, that she was very close to, and she kind of felt the same way, and we talked about it. I'll never forget when we were at your wedding, and we're just like, is this really happening? We were just so nervous for you and the girls, because the girls, we love the girls like they're ours, and so we just didn't want you to get hurt or the girls get hurt. And we didn't know this guy very well. We only had met him a couple of times, and usually we'd know people a lot longer, know, and so I was nervous, but I stood right there.
Yes, you
walked
did.
Down that aisle with you,
and me. Yeah. So, yeah, my girls were, I had fixing to be a senior in high school and a freshman in high school. So that was their ages at the time that this happened. So we get married, and then actually, the red flags came a little bit before we got married where, probably wasn't right, but for whatever reason, every once in a while you go snooping in a phone. Yeah. If you trust somebody, that's a clue right there. If you trust them, you don't go snooping through their phone, right? Yep. Don't have a reason to. But I had seen some text messages that were from the relationship prior to when we started dating.
Okay.
And he was, she was like busy with work or whatever, and he was just trying to convince her to spend time with him on the weekend. And she's like, I'm tired. I'm just exhausted. I don't need to see you. Well, then he started turning it back on her. And, well, you don't like me enough or whatever it was. I can't quote it verbatim, but it was the context of that.
We talked about that in our last episode.
Right. So it was one of those things that, and we should always listen to our intuition, because in the moment I was like, I got that little twinge going, that is kind of weird. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really put it in the context that maybe he did that in other relationships. I didn't know, but it was just enough where it just felt a little weird. So, and then there was another episode where we went to a charity event. We went together.
Yeah.
And was all dressed up. I mean, I think it was like around Christmas or something, but we were in all fancy. It was like, formal dresses, everything. It was going to be this wonderful thing. Well, he started drinking a little bit too much, and tequila was the choice of drink for him, but it turned him into a very mean drunk, and I hadn't seen that before. So, red flag.
I'm not a fan of mean drunks.
No.
I'm a happy drunk.
I'm a happy, goofy drunk. I dance a lot.
On our 2 glasses of wine.
Right, and I'm like 21 in my head thinking I can move like the ones do now.
Right.
But, so I should have known then that was a red flag, because it just got crazy. And I would find out as I tell my story, as we go through my experience, that alcohol actually became or was the factor that ended up causing the divorce, right? So basically those were the two red flags. There was a lot of things,
but
so it was one of those things where, like, within the first year and a half that we were together, there's some couple arguments that came up, and one of them was about my girl's dad and the financial the financial arrangement we had and child support and just the money in general. And then the other thing again was alcohol. It kept coming back up in different places. And so with the girl's dad, with child support, there's an agreement. They're required to pay that by law, and anything above that, if they want to be nice and you ask, hey, can you help me with the extracurricular? Some people do, because it's their children, and they don't look at you as like, okay, whatever garbage is happening between you, I'm going to take care of my kids. Well,
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I didn't get, well, you know what? I'll say every once in a while. I may have gotten something.
You hope for that, right?
Yeah.
So
you hope for that.
Yeah. That was an argument because he thought my girl's dad should give more. And I had learned for many, many years just to take care of it myself. Because that's what we do, right? We know we just do it. My kids need this, whatever it is, I take care of it. Mm-hmm. So that kept coming up where I was making excuses and I was defending him and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you matter-of-factly, he's not going to give money. So that came up a lot of times. And then the other time was alcohol kept coming up. So at his job, he worked a second shift, and when he would come home from work, he would, and I'm in bed usually most of the time, but he would drink 6 tall boys, the beers. How big are they? They're like that big or something. They're huge. And he would do that to fall asleep, and then he would fall asleep on the couch, and then I would get up, go to work or whatever it was. So we were basically on 2 different things, but I realized that because, he had that's what was happening, right?
Right.
So through the first...
So would you just find stuff laying around when you got up, or was it in the trash?
It was, I didn't pick up on it initially. So further on, I started realizing this. So this is like looking back where I knew he was drinking a lot. He said it was the only way he could go to sleep, to unwind and those kind of things. Gotcha. And he would say, I would be like, well, that's kind of excessive. And he's like, well, you should see the guys at work, what they drink, or I used to drink more. So trying to, I guess, justify or downplay how much he was actually drinking. So, that was happening in the first year and a half.
Wow.
So in that same year and a half, there was also with the fights, I remember, they start turning into fights instead of, leading, trying to understand or explain or get help. That was the thing. If I felt it was excessive, I would think a partner would reflect and go, maybe I need to reevaluate my behavior.
No, they don't think that way. You would hope, but they don't think that way.
Right. I think I'm an optimist.
They think they're doing nothing wrong.
Right.
That we cause them to be mad and cause them to be angry.
Yeah. So, it always comes back to on me some kind of way, or you, or whoever's, the one that's getting the brunt of that, right? There's no accountability or reflection, and it's like, well, where can I push that off on? So one of the arguments that we had was about the girl's dad and finances and things like that, and it was right before my youngest daughter's a football game, and she was probably, I want to say she was either a sophomore or a junior at this time, so right in there, maybe her fall of her junior year. So my oldest was off at college at this point, and so arguing, screaming, yelling, whatever. I'm pretty non-confrontational, so I don't like to yell.
Right.
I don't call names and things like that. Well, he was losing it because he was so mad. Well, he ended up making me start, let me say, I'm not even saying that right. My blood pressure, see, I'm getting worked up. My blood pressure started to get worked up, and I was just feeling off, but I went ahead and went. I was not going to miss my daughter's activities. So get to the football game, and I'm sitting in the stands, and one of the band moms comes over, and she goes, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I really don't feel well. I was feeling just bad." So she's like, "Well, let's go see the medical guys, the paramedics that are there, and let's get you checked out." And so I'm like, okay. Well, she's having to hold my arm and walk me over there, and they
stress and blood pressure mess around with your body.
Yeah, I was so worked up. It was bad. So we get over there, and they do my blood pressure and everything, and it registered normal, 120/80. Yeah. I have low blood pressure, and they're like, "Oh, you're fine." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. I feel like I'm having a stroke or something."
Like a panic attack.
I think it probably was.
Yeah, it's sometimes I didn't even know what that felt like until maybe 10 years ago. I got it for the first time, and I really, like you said, I thought I was dying, and so maybe that's what it was.
And looking back on it, it probably was, but I'd never had one before that, so I didn't know. And they say it's a lot like a heart attack.
Yes.
So could have been that.
Right.
So anyway, so that was one experience. So I had to leave, and I went home.
Oh, man.
Well, and then there was another experience where he punched a hole in the master bathroom, just bam, and it sat there forever. I didn't have any money to fix it or whatever. But yeah, that's big crazy hole. And I don't remember what that fight was over, but he got angry, punched the wall, and then the last real big fight I remember in those early years, was another argument. One of the two. Again, I can't remember what the argument was about, but it was on our 1-year anniversary, and he got so mad that he took off his wedding ring and threw it across the room, and it hit the wall, and he left. He went to stay with his parents. I stayed at home, and so I spent my first anniversary to this person I thought that was going to last forever, right? You know, and I was crying. I was devastated because I'm like, how can somebody get so mad over anything to where you take off your wedding ring and you hurl it across a room?
Yeah.
So that's just in the first year and a half. Red flags before, should have listened, and then those 3 are the ones that come to mind. There were other things like, when if I happened to stay up later or come back from somewhere, he'd be sitting on the couch, and he would have to get up and go to the bedroom for something. And I wish I could demonstrate. I don't have enough room for here. But he was always slurring his words. And then he would get up, and it was one of those kind of, you lean and then you kind of walk around, the whole little, I call it a drunk walk, because you've had too much and you're bounced off, kind of do the wide circle and go around. Mm-hmm. So all of that stuff was happening within the first couple of years of our marriage. And what do you do? So it wasn't at the point where I was going to give up on anything, because I'm like, well, if he would just say, I need help, then I would have stood by him till the end and would have been there all the way. But, when you start seeing things like that, you really start questioning yourself, should I have waited longer? What do you do? Right. And so I know you have some opinions on that, because we spent time together as couples, and there were parties at your house and things like that. Yep. And you have a perspective of neediness and insecurity that happens. So I'll let you talk about that.
For what happened with you, I did see a lot of that. We were so much closer before he came into the picture. So we were doing stuff together or going out and doing things. Then when he came in, it just seemed like you couldn't do that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And it felt like I was a threat to that.
Yes.
Right. And
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
He expressed that many times. I think I was single at the time, just raising my kids. Just a little background. I have been married 3 times. I divorced my kid's dad and then married the love of my life and lost him to cancer. And so those are stories we're going to get into. But yeah, so I was just raising my kids, and because this was after my husband had passed away.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was right after that. And so I was just trying to, I wanted my friend, but he was just like, no, you can't go in there. And I remember one time we went out. Yes. We went down. We have an area called the Stockyards here. And, it's bars, restaurants, outdoor things.
And it was during the week.
It
wasn't even like
it was just Saturday to get out.
Night. Yeah.
Like I was raising 3 kids on my own. She had her kids, plus she was working a couple of jobs. So we needed a little girls' time. So we went out in the middle of the week just to have a drink.
Right.
And, some weird guy came up to us and said something weird.
He was very creepy.
He was so weird. And we're nice, obviously.
Yes.
We're not going to be like, get the hell away from us.
Yeah.
So we just kind of talked for a second, and then he left. And then I think that became an issue, didn't it?
It did, yeah. So I got home after that, and we didn't even stay out late. I was probably home by 10. Because it was literally like a Tuesday. And it's like, well, let's just go somewhere. So we went to to the Stockyards, and there was like a band playing, and there was nobody there, and we just kind of sat off in the back.
Except the creepy dude.
Except the creepy dude that
do you ever wonder if he like told him to follow you or something?
I don't know,
because he knew, didn't he?
Yeah. So what happened with it? I get home, and then I didn't really think anything about it until a little time passed, and he said he started to gaslight me with that, and he says, "Yeah, I had a friend that was there when you were with Patricia and was watching you, and y'all were all over that guy, and you were hanging on him, and he asked you to dance, and you were all up in his business." And again, I'm paraphrasing. He used different words. But it was like, and I'm like, no,
weirdo.
That didn't happen. Yeah. And so, but the problem with that is I'm starting to go,
how did he know that?
I had like a couple drinks. Did I misinterpret that? And so I even asked you. I said, okay, just reassure me. Nothing happened, right? I am not crazy. And we're like, no, this creepy dude was there.
If we had 2 drinks, that was too many. I want to say I think I had 1. I don't think we even had 2 drinks. We just sat there and talked as we were catching up. Yeah. But it was weird that he knew where you were and like what was going on. I don't know. That was really strange.
He knew I had gone there. But the whole thing after that, where the friend was there, I'm like,
there wasn't anybody there.
Yeah. I'm like, what friend? So anyway, gaslighting with that. And then the situation that happened at your house with the pool party. That was another one. Yeah.
Let me give you the premise of this. This was, we had a pool at our house, and I have 3 kids, and they were, very close in age, pretty popular. My son is an athlete, and he played football and baseball in high school. And so our house was the cool house. Everybody came over and, we hung out there. They went swimming, went to the hot tub and stuff. And so this was one of those days. We were having a get together and all these kids were there. I mean, we had our friends there too, but there was all these young boys there, teenagers, and, she came to the hot tub, and what happened?
Well, it's, we came together. We started out, and I think he started feeling sick or something, tired from work, whatever the reason was. But he left, and I'm like, well, I'm going to stay,
right?
Because I'm hanging out with you, and it's a party. We're all having fun. Tons of people there, all ages, right? And so I get in the hot tub, borrow one of your swimsuits because I hadn't planned on doing that. Right. So he leaves, goes home, and we're in the hot tub together. And then I don't know how much time went back, but he came back and then started causing a scene in the fact that I needed to come home. And it was
like you were 5 years old.
Yeah, like you're in trouble. You should have left with me, whatever. I mean, and all of this, I'm seeing it, maybe wasn't saying it quite like it, but this is my perception. I'm mortified because here's my husband scolding me for sitting in a hot tub, enjoying time with my,
there was teenage boys.
Yeah,
and
teenage
it's like,
boys
what do you
there.
think the teenage boys are going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty perverse.
I got out of the hot tub and I left. I was just so embarrassed. And then when we got home, it turned into, I just wanted to have my boobs out so all these boys could look at it. And I'm thinking, for one, that's kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm like their mother. You're definitely like their mother. So it's like our kids. We were around them all the time. So one, that's extremely creepy. But the other thing is, what am I going to wear in a hot tub? A t-shirt with some long pants. You're
so
wearing
weird.
a swimsuit. So I was mortified on my own and left. And again, it was hard to spend time with you because I knew that was going to be the outcome of that. And so your perspective when you saw that happen after I left, what were you thinking?
I didn't understand what was happening until you told me afterwards. I heard him, he was really pissed, and he was just like, we got to go. And I'm like, what's happening? And I didn't really understand what was happening until we talked about it. I'm just like, why would he even think that? There were so many people around us. This isn't the first time we had one of those kind of parties, and so I'm like, I just thought he was overreacting, and I thought, he just didn't like anybody around you but him because he wanted to control that whole situation with you, and keep you away from people, especially me. And so I mean, even to the end, it was like that, right?
Yeah, which we'll talk about that. Talk about. So after these things happen, I wanted to go to marriage counseling, and so there's a problem here, and we got to figure this out. So we go to marriage counseling, and we go back in the past, things that have happened, just whatever. So I wanted it to work, so I opened up about a lot of things, and being very vulnerable.
You think you can do as your husband,
it's supposed to be your safe place, right? Especially in therapy.
Until they throw it all back at you.
And that's kind of what happened. So as we went several weeks, but as time went on, and I guess it was the therapist was directing things back to him to think about, he started getting kind of defensive. I don't think he wanted to hear it from me and from somebody else that's like agreeing with me, you know? So he would get defensive, he would get angry, and his body language is, you can tell you don't want to be there. So on the way home, we were arguing, or he was arguing, being louder more than me, but I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. So eventually it's like, I went a few more times after that, and it's like, well, if he's not going to participate, this is supposed to be about our relationship, us together. I can't do it because it's a one-way road at this point, and if the partner is not wanting to participate to get better, then what's the point? It's useless. It's not going to do any good. So so the marriage counseling, it fell apart. So that ended up being a disaster. And as you say, later on in the relationship, it came up as ammunition, and it was some pretty, like I said, vulnerable things, some traumatic things, some sexual traumatic things that had happened to me in my past, and all of that got thrown back in my face. And
I hear you.
Right. So that kind of goes in, like, I felt like he was very threatened by you. And like you said, and I didn't even think about it until you said it right now, I think it was, what is it they say, where they try to isolate you from everybody
exactly.
whether it's
abusive
your family.
Relationships.
And I didn't see that, and you just mentioned it that way, and I'm looking back and I'm going, that's pretty much what it was, because you would ask us to do stuff, and I would be like, I can't go, or I got this.
And the thing is, I wouldn't just ask you.
Yes,
we would ask both of you.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that was, that first year and a half, 2 years was just, it was bad, and it was going to get worse as we, as it went on. So, so after that point, some things changed, the better for worse, sickness and health, all this stuff kind of came into play. And, I stood by my vows. That's the ones I said. And so he got very sick. So at his job, working second shift, he was a welder. And he would come home during the week and just be violently ill, throwing up and stuff like that. And so, but on the weekends, he was better. So we're like, this went on for several months, and it's like, we need to figure out what's happening. You are losing weight, just looking bad. So trying to make this the short version, but there's a lot in it. We went to several doctors and finally got to an environmental doctor. And after some tests and things like that, the doctor said, I do think it's related to your work. So we went through a whole process of workers' comp. He started doing experimental treatments. I mean, many tests. Everything's out of pocket because insurance doesn't cover experimental stuff. And so this turned into like a 3-year long thing of him being sick, and he couldn't care for himself. So I was trying to take care of a daughter in college, a daughter now in high school, trying to work a full-time job, take care of my husband, take care of a house, because he was laying on the couch because he couldn't even move at times. And then so I got a second job in there, right? So I was trying to do everything, take care of my husband, because that's what you do. When you love someone, you take care of them, and you try to figure out what's happening and get them better. So for, that's the very, very short story, but there, my mental health started to suffer during this time because I, again, working 2 jobs, 60 to 70 hours a week at both places. And so it was like 8 a.m. till 11 at night, many days in a row, missing work because of doctor's appointments and driving, an hour and a half to this doctor. And just, there was a lot that went at the finances, we were going into debt. So there was a lot in that that was happening. And
I just want to say that is part of what people don't realize when they start to say, well, why did you get divorced?
Yes.
Now, she's only telling you part of the story because, there's more, which she's going to get into. But there's things that happen, and you're just like, I'm doing all of this because this is what my goal was when I was married, to be there for my person and be there no matter what. And then they turn on you, at the end, or they're not there for you. Like you're there for them. And you're just like, well, what do you do? And like you said, you went to therapy, for my relationship. We went to therapy too. My first marriage, he's my kid's dad. And I will love him for that for the rest of my life because he gave me my kids, and respect that. But do I like him? Not so much, Does he like me? Probably not,
Yeah.
But yeah, so ours was not as much with alcohol, and, we didn't really have that issue, but what we had was more of priorities. And I mean, it could go with what you're saying because he didn't put you first.
Right, exactly.
Because the drinking was first for initially. Him. That's what you experienced. And for me, it wasn't necessarily really any drinking because we didn't have a problem with that. It was more of other things in his life weren't priority. Plus, we had kids very close in age. We had 3 under the age of 1 because my twins came very quickly after my first. And we were just, from an outsider looking in, it looked like we had a perfect little life. We had great jobs. I still worked raising 3 kids under the age of 1,
My perception, even while we were friends, it seemed very much like everything is great.
I know. We have the cars, we have the toys, we have the big house, and our kids were great, and we have family here, but nobody really knew what was going on. Like you were saying, nobody knew what was going on behind closed doors. And you don't really say all that to people. You try to work it out. It's
hard even telling your friends that because it's embarrassing to be, even open up, even as close as we are. But both of us struggled with that.
Exactly. You go to therapy, and when the therapist is telling your husband, can you just take her out on a date? I mean, and that doesn't happen. How hard is that, you know? So we talked about the duck calls and that. Yeah. That, I think, was a big factor for me. My birthday is in early September, and here in Texas, that's when, hunting season starts.
Huge.
So I felt like I was a single mom from Labor Day to the end of January, And again, that was my perspective of it, he would go and then come home and either pass out and sleep because he was so tired or, I just felt neglected. And as much as I said it, as much as I wanted things to change, they didn't. And going to therapy, going to all that, nothing was changing for me.
Right.
I just wanted what we had initially, the conversations, the going out, the talking. We had a really good life, but when you're, not their person anymore, which it felt like I wasn't his person, he wasn't my person anymore, you know? And yes, you go to therapy and you think that's going to make it better, but it didn't.
Right.
We went a long time. But yeah, so things happened for me. My relationship was a little different than hers. I felt like I was so alone. And I'm sure at sometimes you felt that way too, right?
You feel very abandoned and no support and alone. And it's like we had the same feelings, but it was over different things.
Exactly.
Right? But it's that same feeling of abandonment, and just that person is not there to support you.
Right, right. And we had little kids, so you know, a lot of our time was spent on our children, which we don't regret at all. I know he doesn't, for sure. I don't. But it also meant it, you know, you have the kids, you should have yourselves, and you should have your activities, and it wasn't like that.
Right.
And so I actually went outside of the marriage initially just as somebody to talk to, somebody to have a connection with, somebody that was interested in me, talking to me, and it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, why can't I have this when I go home, you know? Was it right? Absolutely not. I don't regret anything in my life. I do hate that I hurt my family, my friends, and, you know, my husband, but I do not, there's no but. I lived with that. I said my piece to everybody. I prayed about it, and I just thought, you know, we're just going to move on because there's nothing else I can do. I can't live in my regrets, you know, and I don't have any. But and I ended up finding the love of my life and my person for my second marriage, and that is another conversation. But yeah, so that's how I felt with mine. It does, you know. Some people might go, well, you know, he drank and he just didn't neglect you. It doesn't matter.
Right.
When you're in a marriage, I was married 17 years, almost close to 20 years. I was married for a very long time, and I would have stuck it out had we just had a connection again. But you don't. And you're just like, I didn't want my kids to see that was a marriage, because it really wasn't. You know, you're arguing, you're not talking. You know, I wanted them to know what a real, true love marriage is. A healthy marriage.
Right.
And those aren't, things like that aren't. Drinking, not being there, not working, you know, fighting, arguing all the time. That's not healthy for kids either, you know. So yeah, I didn't feel that it was, but you also kind of mentioned like you were trying to do everything you could to save the marriage.
I knew I had done everything I could, because I look back at that time frame and it's like, I don't know how I could have done any more for someone that was so sick. I mean, there was a point where he ended up in the hospital because there was something else that was going on. And I was coming back from a band activity down south, and the minute I got off the bus, as tired as I was in my car headed to the hospital because he went there. And so I was there, and again, I didn't go to work, because where else would I be? I would be with my husband, and it ended up, you know, being okay and all of that. But yeah, it's like, I don't know how much more I could have been present in that, how much more I could have done for that person during that time.
I agree.
So,
I also think that I did everything I possibly could to keep that marriage. When I said I was going to leave, or, you know, it was over, so my second husband, his ex-wife called my ex-husband and gave him an earful of stuff. And of course I heard an earful after that. And then, you know, I started thinking, did I do everything to save this marriage and with these kids and stuff? And I'm just like, all right, I said I wasn't going to leave. We were going to try to work things out. And we were at a birthday party, his kid's birthday party. It was so awful. But, you know, he pulled me outside. He's like, you know, if you want to stay, then you need to tell me everything that happened. How horrific is that? Everything. And he was yelling at me, and he's like, you know, I was crying, and he's like, no, we're not going to do this. You're going to tell me. You're going to tell me this. You're going to tell me that. And I was just like dying. I'm like, we're at a kid's birthday party, you know? And I was
public.
Like, it was awful. And so, you know, I tried to say what I could say without, you know, and I went back for 3 months, and those 3 months were torture. I was called every name in the book. I was either a whore or a cunt or this. Every day was something else. And just because he had held it over me, you know, and I had to pretend everything was great with my kids because they were young. They were
the high road.
Yeah, they were younger. They were, you know, in middle school or whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, how can I live like this with this person? You know, and he threatened the person I was with, and I wasn't with him at the time. I had told him it was over and I had to try to make my marriage work, and he was devastated. But I said, you know, I'm going to try this out, and he had his own issues, and so he said, if I ever see him, if you get a text, if you get a call, I'm going to go kill him. I mean, he said all these things to me, and I was so like petrified for him, for this person. You know, he didn't live here; he lived in another city. But I was so scared that he had so much anger built up. You know, and I understand, but not to where it's going to cause harm to other people, like physical harm, you know, or he would go to jail or something, you know. So I remember one day we were sitting at a lunch, you know. I thought, okay, let's go visit a lunch place that we used to go to when we were together. And we were sitting there, and oh my God, my phone went off, and I got a text message from the other person. I didn't tell him to text. I didn't even know if I knew what blocking was back then. You know, phones and text messaging, all that was kind of new back then. And he's like, who is that? What is that? And he grabbed my phone, and he's like, oh my God, I'm going down to kill him. And he jets out of the restaurant. And remember, we're in Texas. We own guns. Everybody has guns, you know. And he was so mad, and he was like, he was getting ready to get in his truck, and I'm like begging and pleading and crying, please don't do it. Please don't. Think of the kids. Think of, you know, you're going to get in trouble. Please don't do this. Please. And I was scared. I was really scared that he was going to do something to him. And I finally calmed him down so that he wouldn't go. And I was just like, I think that was it for me. I was just like, what's happening?
You can't come back from that.
How do you, you know, am I going to live like that for the rest of my life? Worried that he's either something's going to happen to me or something's going to happen to him, even though he's not in my life, you know? And I just said, I can't. I couldn't live with the name calling. He was always good with name calling. And, you know, even after we divorced, he calls me all sorts of names and says terrible things. And I don't do that to him. I don't call him names. I don't say stuff like that because, you know, he has to live with all of that. I have to live with what I did, you know. But yeah, so I had to move on. And I'm 100% glad I did because I did get the pretty
Your
perfect
person.
My person for real. So and I'll talk about him another time. But yeah, that was, you know. And what's really funny is, like, we were talking about how we were raised, and my mom, I can remember her sitting with me, and I was telling her that I was going to get divorced, or I wanted to get divorced, and she was just like, oh, you really need to think about that. And I looked at her, I'm like, did you forget who you raised? I mean, you were the one who told me that I could do this on my own. But she's like, oh, you have 3 kids. It's not the same. I'm like, and, you know, I actually, it was difficult for me because I didn't have a lot of support. I didn't have a lot of support from my family, from my, you know, relatives and stuff. It was just lonely all over again. I'm just like, I just got to take care of these kids, make it safe for them. And we talked about meetup.com. That saved me. It really did. And I went on to that meetup.com, and again, just trying to find people that weren't talking about my marriage or my divorce or what I did or what I didn't do, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I could talk to these people. I met a great group of friends. You know who you are. I love you guys. They really got me through it because we didn't have to talk about that. We could talk about just any other thing, like be a normal human being. And I got through all that. And he put me through hell. He put me through almost 4 years of...
They saw you as Patricia and not mom or wife
exactly.
All the other labels that you kind of fall into. It's like, I'm just a person. Let me tell you about me and who I am, kind of thing.
And, you know, the one thing that happened was crazy, but I wanted it to be amicable. You know, we had 2 houses, we had a lot of toys, we had a lot of cars, whatever, and let's just do it straight down the middle. You get one house, I get one house for the kids. We I had a job, he had a job, it was all good, 50-50, and he sat at our kitchen table, said, yep, okay, we'll do 50-50, no problem, 50-50 with the kids too. I didn't want the kids to have to go through more pain. Right. And then I go to the courthouse the next day, and my lawyer pulls me in a room. He's like, okay, so you know what's happening, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, he's fighting for full custody.
I remember you telling me that, and I was like, what?
And I started like screaming at the courthouse, and he's like, you have to be quiet. I'm like, no. I mean, how they turn on you. And I have heard people say that they hit you where it hurts the most. And my kids were what hit me the most. I was going to protect them no matter what. And that was part of getting out of that marriage, trying to protect my children from a bad marriage. And I wanted them to see what a real good marriage was about. And so so I fought
you
and
fought
I did. I don't care what happened.
Time.
I fought a long time. I got my kids, so I don't care where I had them, I got them, and I was happy about that, and just the way it was.
So we have a lot in common, because as I finish up the last basically year and a half, when I was deciding we're done, is I'm going to be petty, and I'm going to say things to you because I know what will hurt you. And then I am going to take you for whatever I can take you because I want to financially punish you. At least that was in mine, and I'll talk about that in a little bit second. So, and get to towards the end. So it was in the last few months. So all that, he started to get better after 2 years, whatever it was, he started getting better. And I was like, oh, thank God he's getting better, right? This treatment is working. But what I was waiting to see at that point was, are you going to start trying to help me around the house and do things? And it never came. And so I start, instead of just, will you please do the dishes in the sink, to hysterically crying, begging for him to help me. So, and nothing. It stayed the same. I've heard
stories about that, people too. It's like,
I'm begging.
Guys think you have to do everything.
Right.
And I guess you're pretty independent and strong too, and I think that, like I said, sometimes that bites us in the butt, because these guys expect that, it's like, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to that, but then you're also supposed to work and bring home money. I mean, like, what?
Right.
I mean, shouldn't it be 50-50?
Yeah, it's a partnership,
It's a partnership, exactly.
Yeah, so, that started to happen, and I'm like, okay, it's getting worse. Well, about 4 months before that, he was involved in an accident, and wasn't his fault at all. Guy pulled out, and it was like no time to stop.
Right.
He had an old pickup truck, no airbags or anything, and so it totaled this old Chevy pickup truck, crumpled it in the front, and it didn't go to the emergency room or anything like that. He said, yeah, I'm fine. Well, as my oldest was back from college, and so we went to pick him up because the truck was totaled, right? So I'm taking pictures of the truck, and I smell things, right? I'm like, okay, I smell alcohol, but regardless of that, the accident was not his fault. It was a random thing, would have happened to anybody. But I'm thinking, I know I'm smelling something. I am not crazy, because we opened up the truck, was going to take, pictures inside. There wasn't anything in the truck, but I asked my oldest, I said, am I crazy? Again, I've been this whole marriage towards the end going, am I crazy? I'll just make sure I'm not losing my mind. And I said, do you smell that? And she's like, yeah, I smell that. And so, we get home, he doesn't go to the emergency room, and in the next couple days, I asked him about it. He says, no, I wasn't drinking. There was no sign of anything, right? But this is where you second guess yourself all the time, right? So about 3 or 4 days later, he's complaining about stomach pain. And so he's like in horrible pain. So I'm like, we're going to the emergency room, right? So we go to the emergency room, because I'm thinking, well, what if he had a slow bleed or something? You just don't know what happened, right? When you go running into your steering wheel at 40 miles an hour with no airbag, you're going to hurt something. So they run all kinds of tests and everything, did blood tests and all of that. And the doctor comes in and says, okay, have you been drinking anything today? And Grant, this is 3 or 4 days later. He's like, no, I haven't been drinking anything. My wife knows. My wife calls me every time I've been drinking. So, no, I haven't been drinking. He's like, well, your blood alcohol was 3 times the legal limit.
Oh my gosh.
And
I bet that
he's just like,
were you just shocked?
I sat there because, again, where you start questioning yourself and you're doubting yourself. And this whole time through him being sick, initially, it came up, did he drink? Because they ask you all kinds of questions. He's like, no, I'm not drinking. He says, well, if you are, you need to quit because we don't know if this is making your symptoms worse or whatever. Yeah, I quit. So I believed him, right? Yeah. So now we, fast forward, we're at the emergency room, and I'm hit in the face with scientific evidence. You can't fake your way through a blood alcohol test and all of that. So doctors, just kind of looked at me with that look like, like you should, he's been drinking. He may not be saying it, but he's been drinking. And so.
But alcoholics don't. I'm not saying he was one.
Right.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, when you watch shows on TV and stuff that people.
Like the interventions, stories and
they're
stuff.
like in such denial. They don't, and they
don't realize.
They say that if you are somebody who drinks a lot and, is in denial, there's nothing anybody else can do about it. Right. They have to take care of it. They have to want to make that better.
Exactly. You can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped.
Exactly.
So we had this incident, come home, and I'm still trying to believe my husband. I don't want to believe that he's been lying to me. But other things were happening towards the end is...
So what did you end up doing?
So I ended up eventually, there was a time where I kicked him out. I was so angry because we had a situation happen in the family where somebody had passed on his side, and we had people coming over the house. So I'm like trying to clean up. Well, I go out into the garage for some reason. I don't know why, but I was looking for a cooler. I opened up the cooler and I found these unopened, several beer cans in there. And I'm like, you're not supposed to be drinking it. And then I find hidden open cans, empty cans, but they had been there a while. You can tell when something's been laying around. So now I'm like, okay, truck incident. He's hiding things from me. I went and looked in his car, beer cans in the car, and now I'm getting angry because not only are you lying to me, but you're out there on the freaking road driving around. You just don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm starting to get really angry, but because of what had happened, it's not the time and place to say anything. So I left those beer cans, the full ones, in the little cooler in the garage just to see if see what would happen. Week goes by or so, I'll go out and look in that same cooler. The cans are now empty. So he's continuing to drink while he's still telling me. I lost it. Because at this point, it was everything from the beginning till then wrapped up in a ball of explosion. Right. And I had never yelled or screamed in my life at any partner. And I was screaming to get the fuck out of the house, go find somewhere else to live. Yeah. And so he left. I think he was shocked for one, and I ended up, it's the first time I've ever left my house too because I was mad. I'm like, I'm not coming home until you get the fuck out of my house. This is my house. I got it before we were married. Get out. You have disrespected me way too long. You've lied to my face. You've broken my trust. So you've broken our marriage. I am done. So he leaves. And so that was the breaking point for me. I could not stand one more minute of being in this relationship of abandonment, having someone that felt like they chose alcohol over me at every point. Through the separation, he admitted there was only 1 week that he didn't drink while we were married. So now I'm looking back, all those doctor's visits, thinking to myself, he lied to everybody, his family, me, my family, you as well. It's like every time, wherever he went, and it's like, I'm not drinking and whatever. So he lied to everybody. And, so that was my breaking point in mine. Right. I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. And so, he's out.
And I think any kind of abuse is non-acceptable.
Right.
And again, people just don't realize, what people go through.
Right.
And take.
Right.
Because of either their kids or their family, or they just want to, try to make it work. Sometimes we're in denial. I think, we both were for different things. You want to believe
the best for so long.
Every time they're like, oh, I'll take you out, or, oh, I'll be better, or I'll pay attention, or I'll, I won't yell anymore. I won't be, a jerk anymore. and it lasts a week. And then it goes right back to where they were. And it's like, oh my gosh, this sucks. This sucks.
It's one of those where you are thinking back to the person they were and who you fell in love with in that moment.
Exactly.
So it's like you're hoping that person is somehow going to come back and in a moment going to go, oh my God, I fucked up. I'm going to get my shit together, right? You know? And
but they don't.
They don't. It's not their rock bottom, but you would think if you're losing your wife and these children that your wife, the package they came with, you would think at some point that would go, well, that's more important to me than anything else in the world. And it just never was.
No, I think the anger, the deceitfulness, all that kind of plays a part in it. And they're just, it just doesn't happen. Yeah.
I think that's...
And then how much are you supposed to take?
Right, exactly. And I think that's where, when trust is broken, when you trust somebody and they break you, and it doesn't even have to be, he was beating the shit out of me or something. Right. It's like whatever they put ahead of you, that's more important, and that you don't feel safe with them anymore. And so the trust is broken, and that is extremely hard to come by. Kudos to people who can do that. Yeah. I have just gotten to the point in my life that life is too short, and I don't think that God, going back to my upbringing, that God expected me to stay in a relationship where I was treated so poorly. I think there's grace, and he was like, no, I don't want this for you, my child. As they would say, you need to leave. I love you enough to say it's okay for you to leave, and you can make peace with that, because I'm still going to be there for you as your Heavenly Father, right?
Right.
So this is where it gets to the really crappy part. So towards the end, he was apologizing. He wanted to go to counseling and all this. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not going to counseling because you threw all this crap back in my face. Again, trust. I don't know if you're going to have a moment and explode on me, throw your ring across the room, or you're going to call me a name or whatever. That's gone. I just don't believe you. So in one of his, as looking at everything, when he was out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to file bankruptcy. And the only thing I had to help me get out from underneath all of these bills that were all under my name is I need to refinance my house. And so I had known from a previous relationship, my second marriage, that if you do a refinance, that the spouse, if it's under your name, the spouse can waive their rights. So I went into this. I asked him, I said, can you please help me with this? And he says, yeah. It was a good moment. And he says, yeah, I'll do what you need me to do. I said, I just need you signed. You won't be responsible. Your name won't be on the deed, all of this.
And you had to do that because you guys were married?
Yes, because we were married. Okay. And which was weird to me because I'm like, it's my house. Why can't I make the decision? But because of the state we live in, he had to be there to sign papers.
Right.
So we go through this process. He's agreeing to it. Well, we get into the closing. I didn't want to be there when he was because he would flip-flop back and forth, but I want to help you financially to... You're hoeing around, right? So what? What am I, a whore now? It was all this stuff. So between the awful text messages to, I want to help you. I'm just the rage.
Texting.
Yeah, rage texting.
I got a lot of those.
Yeah, it's like I was drinking. I was drinking when I sent that. So it was a lot of that. So anyway, caught him in a good moment. So he goes, and I made sure my appointment was later because I was not going to go at the same time. I didn't want to see him. So this was like 3 months after we had separated. So he gets there, and then they inform him that he was going to be on the deed of the house. And he calls me from the appointment screaming in front of the closing lady that he just found out that he was on the deed, and this is quote, he said if the house went into foreclosure, he was gonna fucking come find me and kill me. And I'm driving to the appointment.
It's just so crazy, and it's scary.
It's very scary.
We're telling you what they said to us, and that's what we experienced. But it is. You're also scared because of your children.
Right.
You're like...
You're unhinged at this point because you're so angry.
You're scared. You're, and they, again, everybody has guns here. It's like a majority of people do. And it's like, you never know what... If they're so mad and they want revenge for whatever they felt that we did to them, whatever that is, you're so scared that something's going to happen to you or your children. Or if it happens to you, then your children have to end up with him. At least mine, because that was their dad. And I was very scared about that.
That saying you want to kill someone, whether in jest or not, you don't joke about that.
No, you don't.
And I'll talk about when we go into my second marriage with that. There's a whole thing with that, but he had an unregistered handgun at one point, and a lot of things happened. And so when I hear that come out of his mouth, I went back to that where somebody's carrying around an unregistered handgun. And I don't know what's going to happen to me. It was a whole stalking thing. So there's a lot to tell with that. But anyway, so that was a trigger word. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. And so now I'm like getting anxious, and I'm driving over there, and I'm just hoping and praying he's not going to be there when I get to my appointment. And so, I mean, the whole time, after he hung up on me and all that, he's like telling me more to fuck off more than once, all just the worst things imaginable, that he can say. So I get to the appointment, and I asked the lady, I said, what happened? I said, I had asked you through this whole process. He wasn't going to be on the deed. He was just going to, sign his rights away. And they said, well, you're doing a cash back. And that's the difference. If you do, listen to everybody. If you're doing a cash back refinance and you own the house coming into a marriage, they are now on the deed because you got money out of your house because you were married at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. So I was blindsided. It wasn't clear to me. So I was in between a rock and a hard place at this point because I'm going to go into bankruptcy. I can't even afford to pay my house. I'm going to lose my house. And if I sell the house, he gets half the money of my house.
Yeah, I lost my house for my divorce. So, and I'm sure he
yeah.
loved that because it hit me. But the fact of the matter is his kids were not in their house.
Yeah.
The house that he had was nothing, and so, and that's fine. We ended up better.
So I signed the papers. I felt like I was just stuck. And so as I'm getting in the car to go, I get a text message, and I'm going to quote it. I have text messages to back up a lot of this because I'm going to quote because, it's so horrific. I just want to say.
Hear it.
So he crossed the line because, one, I will never forgive that he said he wanted to kill me. To the day I die, I will not offer forgiveness for that. And the other thing he said was, I spent 2 hours driving. That deserves a blow or a piece of ass. So he wanted to thank you because he was nice enough to do this refinancing to pay off the bills that I paid for
for his hospital,
treatment, all his
treatment.
Stuff like that. So he not only said it once as I was driving away, I got another one. He said, well, how about that blow or piece of ass? God, and in that moment, again, triggers for me because in my second marriage, there was sexual trauma. Mm-hmm. I went right back to all those experiences, and on the middle of a 6-lane highway, about to go over an overpass, I called you on the phone because I'm going to die going off this. I need somebody to hear me, talk me down or something, because something bad, it's like, you know how it is when you're on the phone and you go in autopilot and 3 miles down the road, you're like, well, how the hell did I get down the road?
Yes.
I called you, and you can talk about how you heard me in that moment.
That was scary. That was very, very scary because you feel helpless. I wanted to get to her. Where she was at wasn't close to where we live, and I knew that she was just so upset. She was hyperventilating and crying, and I'm just like, I wanted her to just pull over, but like you're just in this
it was on
fog.
An overpass. It's like I'm going to get
like
hit
in this
or
fog,
something, right?
So I was trying to calm you down and just, I think you get into that mode where, well, he's a piece of whatever, and don't let him get you to that point. And
but I can't hear it.
Yeah, you can't because you were just so upset, and I was very scared. I was very worried about you, and I think once you calmed down, it was just like, all right, I just wanted you to get home safe.
Right,
I was just like, I'll come get you. Where are you? Where are you? But I think you just kept on driving.
I just wanted to get home.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to be away from that. I wanted to be in my house so I could really fall apart in my bed or whatever I needed to do.
I know, that was awful.
Yeah, but
I hated that you had to go through that.
Yeah, but I was so thankful. It was in the middle of the day or afternoon or something, and I was so thankful that you were there to answer that call. And, you know, we get busy with work or you're in a meeting, but whatever reason it was, you weren't busy at that time.
Yeah.
And it was almost like an answer to prayer that you were able to answer and talk to me at that time because how much I needed you.
Yeah.
So I get home and my daughters are there and I am a wreck. So my oldest is, so this was like 2019. So my oldest was getting ready to graduate college and my youngest was now starting college, or she was like a freshman and in college. And they both happened to be home. And I just came in and I was a mess. I was just crying and everything. And so I told them about, what he said. And then I opened up to them about the trigger words, about the sexual trauma, because other stories we'll talk about is I have a lot of that in my past. And so I talked to them about another experience that was very traumatic and just, I brought those memories come rushing through all at once. And for me, it was like the first time where, my kids didn't know any of this, my girls. And it was a moment where I really felt like our relationship kind of changed from mother-daughter to we were like, I won't say friends because that's not even right. But I taught you.
But mind you, her girls were older. They were in college, and I think it was your youngest. Was she out of high school yet?
Yeah, she was like a freshman in college.
Yeah, so they were in college, and you get sometimes we're so close to our kids that we forget sometimes that maybe we shouldn't say stuff, but we don't have anybody else. At the time, we didn't have anybody else that I tried not to talk to my kids about the stuff that was going on. They saw and heard a lot of stuff because they were much younger when we went through our craziness. But as I've gotten older, the traumatic things that happened with my second marriage, they were also kind of there too. But yeah, I mean, your girls were in college and you felt close to them and they saw it. They experienced all the stuff that you were experiencing.
All the craziness, what was happening towards the end. So they saw that, and it was just in that moment. It's like, what is the matter? What is the matter?
Yeah.
And it's like I have to let it out because I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to keep it inside.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, and so in that moment, it was kind of beautiful because I had always been there for them, and then they were there with their arms wrapped around me, and I just melted, and it was a beautiful moment in that sense where I felt close to my girls, where I could be at a different kind of relationship. It kind of changed at that point. So so that was that whole thing. And then as it went after that, the text messages kept coming, and then I had him
words
served.
are so terrible. It's just so awful. They know it that it hurts you. Words, the name calling, the rage texting. It's like, just stop. It's so stupid.
It went just a little bit more, it's, getting to the very last part, but basically the point that, the verbal abuse, it kept going back and forth between, I'm sorry, I love you, and the girls, whatever. So, there was one last experience where he came to the house and I had some things on the porch for him to pick up, and I was upstairs with my youngest daughter and talking or whatever, and all of a sudden I hear this, what sounded like an explosion. And what it was is he came and picked his stuff up the porch, and he kicked the door so hard that I actually thought the door broke, and it scared us to death, scared my daughter to death, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is happening? So that happened, and then the verbal abuse continued not too much longer because I'm like, I can't keep lines of communication open with this person hoping he's just going to sign papers, right? To try just to agree, give me my stuff. Just, you came in with yours, take yours, leave me alone, just go. But the verbal abuse turned into things like this, and this is where I'm going to cut. Quote again, and I have text messages, so these are not made up. I can print them out and send them to the world, right? So basically, a lot of them were followed by laughing and kissing and crazy face emojis. So again, just being sarcastic, but also like, I'm going to poke at you. But, he signed the papers for the refinance, and he goes, my next signature won't be that easy. Hire you a good lawyer. Says, I'm going to draw this out as long as possible with 3 kiss emojis. You're going to hate me when I'm done. I was going to walk away, but now I'm taking half of the little you have left. Have a motherfucking day. I'm not the puss. 1, 2, and 3 are. Good luck to y'all, including my children. Some kids you're supposed to love. Be prepared to move back to the real ghetto. go. Wait till your retirement takes a massive hit. You will really hate me. Fuck off. Your life is going to suck even more than mine now. Good luck. You're not going to walk away from me without a fight. So now I'm done, and I'm going to fuck your whole world to shit. At that point, blocked from everything, no more contact, because I was trying again, thinking, okay, in the good moments, in between all that stuff, he's agreeing, and I'm like, okay, maybe he'll just sign. And then it would come back and fuck your whole world to shit. Yeah. And so
it's funny because at least yours said it, mine just did it.
Yeah, there you go. He had actions, mine had words,
he just did it. He just went and, threats and...
so this
years and years of divorce, financial. You talk about going bankrupt.
Yeah, your divorce lasted how long?
Probably almost 4 years.
Yeah, mine was,
which was crazy. Yeah. But he wanted to stick it to me, take my kids, take everything, and I had gotten back together. I had gotten back together with my second husband, and we went through my divorce together, and that pissed off my first husband to no end.
Right.
So he just wanted to make me pay for it, like trying to take my kids and, all this other stuff. And we fought a good fight. And, I wanted to move. I wasn't allowed to move. But you know what? I had my kids, and that's all that mattered. That's all that mattered to me.
Everything else is just stuff.
It's just stuff, and I am much closer to my kids than he is. Right. And so.
Yeah. So we ended up going through mediation, and, I had a lot of my 401k before I got married. And when you get married, I ended up going to another company in the process. And so I had like 2 401ks. And I was like, the one from the prior company was a lot of money. And then I had a little bit from the new one. It wasn't very long. I thought, I'm just going to make it easier on myself, and I'm going to combine it and have one. But because I did that after I was married, now he's entitled to half of it. Right?
This is a lesson, people out there.
Prenups are not a bad thing.
Yeah, prenups are not a bad thing. Yeah. But in Texas, I don't know about other states, but in Texas, if you are married, that person, whether you say yes or no on your 401k, they will get half of your 401k, period.
Right. So that's how he wanted to punish me. It's like...
money and the name calling.
Yes.
Yes.
So...
it's just money. Yeah. It goes away. You don't take it with you. I know that from experience. You don't take it with you.
It was frustrating to me because all of that came before he was ever around, and in my 401k I'd built up as a single mom over many, many years. So I worked and sacrificed thinking of retirement. So for him to say he was going to take all of it, he wanted all of it. So going to mediation, I mean, he, true to his word, he drew it out 18 months. He's like, I'm going to make it last as long as I could. Yeah. So
it's interesting that
it's frustrating.
That's frustrating. The legal system allows stuff like that to happen. Obviously these attorneys are getting paid a gazillion dollars, and that's what they do. But it's like there should be a time limit on like divorces and things like this. It should be like, okay, 6 months to a year, it's done, and you figure it out. Whether you figure it out or not, it's going to be done. I shouldn't let people drag it on. And mine did too. Mine just dragged. He wouldn't answer discoveries. He wouldn't answer anything. I actually was the one saying, hey, I'll give you this, I'll give you this, I'll give you this. We offered everything, and he just wanted to be who he was and not give us what we wanted, just out of spite. It was like, what did they say? The woman scorned?
Yes.
He was a man scorned, and he just wanted to, stick it to me, and I didn't really care. I mean, I had my person, so I didn't really care.
Well, and that's another bitching thing is you always hear how women take it, the stereotype is the woman goes after everything that the man has.
I didn't.
In my case, it was the opposite, and he became vindictive, wanted to punish me for things I felt like he was going to be rewarded for bad behavior because we were only there because he didn't want to change his behavior. So it's like a toddler, here, I'll give you a candy if you quit yelling or throwing a fit.
Yeah.
Here, we're going to give you, half of her 401k, and you have to give your permission for her to keep her house.
Right.
And so that's what it turned into. He gave us permission. He let me have my house. But then, I ended up having to pay all the attorney fees. And then he got half my 401k. And I was so angry because I'm, again, rewarding for bad behavior. So after 18 months of that, I think it was August. I should have looked up the date, but it was either August or September 2021. I think it was August. The divorce was final. And I was like, thank God this is done. It's over and done. I have my house. I can move on, and we're going to put up a picture.
You did.
We're going to put up a picture so you can see like what stress of just anything. In my case was the marriage. The picture before was about, in that period, about 4 months where I was working the jobs. I wasn't getting any help. And then the picture after that was like October of 2021. So like 2 months after my divorce. And when you see that picture, I don't even look like the same person. I look like I'm 15 years younger in the one after that. So do I regret anything? No, I don't. I am where I need to be. My life is so much better, but I don't have any regrets about divorcing him. Yes, it was my third husband. Did I go into it wanting to get divorced? Absolutely not. But I'm okay.
I didn't either. I didn't go into my marriage wanting a divorce, and so I guess I'm out of wine.
I know.
So
I'm almost
I guess
out of
we're gonna
wine
have to wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
We hope that you listened to our bitching today, because there was a lot of bitching. We did serve some tea into our lives, but it is our lives. Sometimes we talk about this stuff and we rant and rave about how angry we were, and you know how crappy that stuff was. We know the parts that we played in it, because you know, again, it takes two people to get married. It takes two people to get divorced. So what do they say? It's her story, his story, and then somewhere in the middle, the truth.
Right.
And again, this is all from our perspective, how we felt and what we went through. Right. And we're going to talk about some more stuff at maybe the next episode. We'll continue to talk about some more.
Well, and to wrap up the bitching is, you know, I always felt like I had to defend myself. And I know that was a really long, you know, description of what happened. But it actually, I haven't talked about this with anybody. And
but
so
I know
to
that,
kind of put it out there is, you know, I'm happy I'm putting it out there, because it's my opportunity to finally, you know, put what happened. Because I've had people say, what happened? And it's like I wanted to tell them, but it wasn't the right time. And this just feels like the right platform
and
to do
does,
that.
I know that it does. It did bother you, you know, because
I'm still angry. See,
still bitching.
Have another glass of wine, right?
But I, you know, that's you went through all that. That's your reality, and so. But anyways, so we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna ask you to keep bitching and moaning out there. And join us for our next episode next week. Yeah, we'll have a fun moaning. We'll give you a little teaser. We'll have a good moaning for you, a little fun one on the next podcast. Yeah. So be sure to come back and find out what that is. Okay. So